Hello and welcome to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 2, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakis, and I'm joined by Doug Geiser, the head coach of the Ashland University football team. Coach, thanks for sitting down with me here today.
Good afternoon, Cade. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's always a great day when you're here in the studio. So this past weekend, you guys took on Thomas More, a 28-3 victory for you guys. How happy are you that you're now on this 5-game winning streak?
Well, my happiness goes to the fact that we were 1-0 that last week. That's kind of what I look at, and I was a little concerned going into the game. We had been through a very tough stretch, a number of games that were emotional games, and so I worried about if we'd have the emotional reserve to take on a really good Thomas More team at their place. And the guys put the preparation in during the week, and they slogged through it and came up with a big win.
And obviously, too, we can't not mention the fact that you guys took on Findlay last week, a really tough team that at the time was nationally ranked. How did you build off that momentum in that win and carry it into this game against the Saints?
Well, what I talked to the guys about, it's all about the preparation. And you know as well as I do, because I preach it all the time on this show. After a win, after a loss, after Sunday, we turn the page on that game. We don't even think about it. We don't talk about it anymore, because in a lot of respects that takes up energy and focus that we should be devoting to the next opponent. And especially with a Thomas More team that's up and coming and does really well, especially at home. So we did the normal process. The guys bought in. I thought our leaders, our captains, did a great job of keeping everybody focused, brought the juice in practice, and they put the preparation in. It paid off. And
Coach, who were the game ball winners, and who were the standouts that were recognized?
The game ball this week, it'll be a guy that's on the show later today, Miles Martin. Had 2 key picks for us. One was a pick six. It really solidified the game in the second half. The defensive player of the game was defensive tackle Christian Garish. Offensive player of the game was Ty Stevenson, who really stepped forward as a running back in the run game, especially in the second half. And then special teams wise our special teams player of the week is Zach Heinz, who's been a stalwart for us in all the special teams throughout the year. Scout team wise, our scout team offensive player, actually players this week, Davion Cruz simulated their one quarterback, Rayvon Vaden. Did a great job in practice. The scout offensive line has given the guys up front a great look all year, so we want to recognize them again. Scout team defensive player was Devontae James, who's a defensive end from Glenville, a freshman for us. And the scout team special teams player was Dante Landers, a corner from St. Joe's.
Okay, and when you take a look at what you mentioned there in a moment was Miles Martin, his big game he had. Obviously, that one interception that went for a touchdown. You guys had 3 offensive touchdowns, 1 defensive touchdown. When you take a look at just the season at large, you guys have had so many points on sides of the ball other than the offense. How important is that to you guys to continue to find ways to win?
Well, what we do, we take an attack mentality, and it's not just on offense, it's also on defense and in special teams. You try to press the action and force other teams to make mistakes, and when they do, you got to take advantage of it and make explosive plays. And Miles' play there, the pick six, which is a continuation of that philosophy.
And Miles now has 3 interceptions through the last 2 games, and you guys seemingly always have someone break out and have a really good stretch through a couple games. How does that speak to the depth that this team possesses?
Well, it speaks to the depth of the team, but also the philosophy, especially on defense, that Coach Rose uses. He uses he calls it his money ball approach, and we'll play 22, sometimes more than that, and so everybody knows they need to prepare because they're going to be in the game and get meaningful snaps. And so when your number is called, you're expected to perform. So the expectation that is not for the person; it's for the position at that point. And it's really come to a fore in a lot of the games this year.
And the running back room has also really started to find its form in recent weeks after struggling to start the year. Orlando Kumar now has 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. When you take a look at that running attack starting to flourish, what has led to it?
I think probably the biggest factor is you think about we graduated 3 senior tailbacks, number 1, and Larry Martin, Gio Washington, Eli Potts. A lot of carries we lost through their graduation. So you had 3 guys stepping into roles, 2 guys really young, Ty Stevenson and Orlando Kamara. And then, Pat Blueball is going into his 5th year, but he's been primarily a special teams player, just bit parts on offense. So it took a little bit for them to get up to speed with what they're going to see. But then the other factor of that, too, is the offensive line. And we're extremely young, starting 3 freshmen. And it just took some time for them to come together, with Ethan Enders and Nick Walker, and not to mention being young at fullback and at tight end as well. So I think a combination of all those factors, you can't jumpstart the run game. It just takes reps. It takes a lot of chemistry and camaraderie and time together, and they chopped wood the whole time. They put their time in practice-wise, and you're starting to see the fruits of that.
And Coach, you always talk about not being complacent and always trying to strive to win that next game and continue to improve. We've talked about a lot of sides of the ball, a lot of position groups that have excelled. Are there any that you guys are putting extra work on to try to excel as well down the line?
No, it's basically a whole team effort. It's just a philosophy that I really preach, and I've been very, very fortunate that it's been a great culture in taking over for Coach Owens, and the foundation's been there. It's the same thing he preached. And so the guys have bought into it, they believe in it, they've seen the fruits of it. So in a lot of respects, I'll bring those things up, but the older guys already know, and they're setting the standard. Whether it's defensive backs coming in extra to watch tape, or the offensive line, or the defensive ends, whatever the case might be, there's a culture at all those positions that kind of runs itself at this point. And it's really neat. It's a neat dynamic to see, and it's a great thing to be a part of.
And also, these past few weeks have started to show that you guys can hang with some of the top teams in the nation, with Findlay being number 20 at the time when you guys defeated them. Do you hope it starts to result in some attention in the national polls?
That's going to take care of itself. For us, we're just worried about 1-0 every week. We're worried about the conference right now. We can't even control the conference result right now. We just got to be 1-0 every week and take care of our business and control our own destiny. The national polls are something that we can't control at this point. We know if we continue with our goal of winning the conference and being 1-0 every week, that we'll probably get recognized. But you can't put the cart before the horse. You can't waste time and waste mental energy worrying about something you can't control. The one thing we can control is the process. The one thing we can control is going 1-0 every week, and so that's our goal every week.
And how do you keep those guys rallied to go 1-0 every week, especially as we get to the back half of the season while you guys are still undefeated in conference action?
Well, what you do is you point to what's happened so far and point to the process, and you believe in it. And you put the time in, and you see the fruits of the labor. And that's why, I know a couple shows ago you asked about, the importance of getting a win every week. And the win is actually the payment. Okay, that's the payment for all that time you put in during the week. So you want to cash in. And and for me, it adds confirmation to those players and to the coaches. That's the process. You do X, you're going to get Y. So we've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to start to put it together on all three sides of the ball, and it's a neat thing to be a part of.
Well, Coach, it was great to sit down with you. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth on Thomas More later in today's episode. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll take a quick break and join you back here shortly. Stay tuned through this commercial break. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. I'm currently joined by standout defensive back Miles Martin and Coach Geiser. Miles, I appreciate you hopping on the show with me here today.
I appreciate that.
This past weekend, you guys took on Thomas More. You were able to find 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. Talk about that preparation that led into this game you guys had.
Honestly, it starts off with God, honestly. I always look to him first for whatever I do. But other than that, we're always in the film room. We're always watching the league. We got to watch at least 6 hours of film, but I love to study film. And just practicing fast, that's the mentality, give it 100% effort. So.
And Coach, how important was Miles' performance this past weekend to you guys ultimately find that win?
It was huge for us. The offense had kind of stubbed their toe a little bit, and we had missed a couple field goals. And he brought a spark, not only turning them over, but also being able to take it to the house, put points on the board, and just kind of you could feel the air, leave out of the balloon at that point. So it was a big part in the game.
And Miles, even before this past week against Thomas More, up against Findlay, who were number 20 in the nation at the time, you were able to find an interception in that game.
Yeah.
So do these types of games where you're going up against nationally ranked opponents really affect you guys in terms of preparation, or maybe just the expectations you have going into the game?
We don't take any opponent lightly. We always go, we want to go 1-0 every week. So, we respect all, but we fear none. And that's what Coach Geiser preaches all the time. So that's kind of just what we go by.
And off the field, what has your work ethic been like to try to get to these points where you're having really consistent games and back-to-back weeks? And then as a whole, the defense has just really excelled. Yeah,
we just our team, we got great relationships on the team. We're all close. Off the field, we're watching film together and stuff like that. So, we got a brotherhood that this is just a bunch of love, and we just want to keep winning. So.
And have there been any specific mentors or anyone in the coaching staff who has helped make your time at Ashland so special in terms of success, but also off the field?
Yeah. First, just the team. I mean, I feel like everybody has something to do with our success. But Coach Ash, shout out to Coach Ash. He's a great coach. He continues to just prepare us and bring that energy for the defense and the DB room for sure. So.
And Coach Geiser, off of that point as well, has there been anyone specifically who you've seen that has stepped up as kind of a leader for the defensive back room?
I would think you look at the guys that have been there for a bit. You got a quiet leader like Isaiah Clark, with the safeties, and doesn't say a lot, but his play and his preparation speaks volumes. You also want to look at guys like Devin Prude, who's been a 2-year captain for us. And same where he is more of an actions not words guy as well. But they give a great example for our young players and new players to the team. This is how you go about being a college football player and playing at a high level. And their production on the field just adds credence to all that time they put in. So it just kind of builds on each other.
And Miles, being on the defense, obviously you have to trust an awful lot of individuals and to ultimately get the job done. Yeah. Is there anyone for you that you've seen stand out this season that has really helped propel you guys in the defense to a lot of success?
Yeah, to piggyback up off what Coach Geiser said, Isaiah Clark, he continues to spark the defense. And Devin Prude and Jalon, I mean, I can name a lot of guys on the defense, the D-line. We're all just one unit. So, we all just fly around.
And moving forward, how can you guys continue to find success this coming weekend against Northwood?
Just to continue to do what we're doing, just playing fast, trusting the process with what the coaches give out as far as our plan and everything, and we're just going to keep rocking.
Well, Miles, I appreciate you sitting down with me here today.
I appreciate you, too.
When we return back from this next commercial break, we'll wrap up the show with Coach Geiser. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, right here on AUTV. Coach, it's time for the final segment of today's show. As before we take a look at the upcoming schedule and the current GMAC standings, we have to talk about this week's upcoming game against the Northwood Timberwolves. How important is it for you guys to take home a win, especially with Northwood looking for revenge after a loss last week?
Well, for us, it's just the next game up on the schedule for us, and in order for us to attain our long-term goals this season, we've got to do well against the team this week, Northwood, and they're a really good football team. They're 4-3 this year, and only lost 2 games in the conference, and it'll be a big challenge for us.
And for the fans out there, who should they be on the lookout for, standout-wise, for both of these two teams?
I think for Northwood, if you want to look first on their offense, they run an up-tempo scheme. Dustin's done a great, brought that with him from his previous school. The quarterbacks played really well. Jacob Barledge has played very, very well, and he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink, to kind of quote a phrase with that. And then defensively, everything revolves around their inside linebacker, Tunkara. And we faced him for many years. He started at Malone, and then he ended up transferring to Northwood. So we're very familiar with him. He's a really good player, one of the best linebackers in the league.
And the last time you guys have taken a loss to Northwood was back on September 23rd of 2006. How important is history to this team, you guys that is, and what type of motivation does this provide for you guys to keep this win streak alive?
Well, for us, and believe it or not, we don't really look at that. And for us, we do preach our history here at Ashland because we're very, very proud of it. But as far as once you're in the moment, you worry about those things after the season, the significance of all that stuff. When you're in the moment, you're playing in the season, hey, what can we control now? And what we control now is our preparation for Northwood and getting ready to play a really good football team at Jack Miller Stadium this weekend. And that's all we're worried about at this point.
All right, Coach, we'll take a look at the upcoming schedule as we get ready for some more GMAC action to come your way. Obviously, looking down the road, how do you keep your guys healthy, energized, and locked in each week, especially with the back half of the season approaching?
Well, for us, as you can imagine, it seems like I'm chewing my cud twice and all this stuff here, but we're not worried about the 3 games after this week. We're not. All we're worried about is Northwood right now, and that takes all of our focus just to get ready for them. But if you look at ahead there, you got a Walsh team that's playing very, very well this year as well. So we got some big challenges coming down the road in our schedule.
And also, when looking at the standings, there are some teams on your tail right now. Is that something you guys think about, or just focus on what you can control?
We focus on what we can control. That's all. I mean, and that's something we preach. And it's not just as far as the opponent. That's just an approach we take going into every game. We don't worry about the officials. We don't worry about the weather. We don't worry about the opponent. We prepare for what we're going to do, and that's all we can control is control us. And that's a handful right there to do that. So that does a good job of kind of keeping all of our energies.
And Coach, it's been a little bit since I've been able to ask you this question, but how important is it to get people out there and support you guys at Jack Miller Stadium this coming Saturday?
It's extremely important. We've been away for a couple weeks now, and we love our home crowd. And we had a great crowd there for Tiffin and ODU back-to-back, and they really helped spur us on to great victories against both those teams. And we're going to need that support from the hometown fans against Northwood this week.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today, and good luck this weekend.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
As a reminder, be sure to tune in to 88.9 WRDL for full live game coverage of Ashland University versus the Northwood Timberwolves on Saturday, October 26th, with kickoff set for 1 p.m. And if you want to hear more from Coach Geiser, tune into the Early Birds Word Tuesday mornings at 7:30 a.m. for exclusive coverage of AU football. You can also catch the game on tape delay on Rock Entertainment Sports Network, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakus saying thank you so much for tuning into the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV.